Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. I'm Kurt Sasek, although you probably knew that because my name is right above what you're watching. So I have Mr. Marcus Ogden, who has had a rather, wow, he's done quite a bit. He started out as an NFL player, played for four teams: the Titans, the Jaguars, the Bills, and the Ravens. He then went
Mhm.
on to take over as CEO of a construction firm. And what did he do? He elevated it to be a multi-award winning firm, also increased their revenue substantially. And he is also a best-selling author. And let me make sure I read these exactly right. So when his book was released within 1 week in October 2015, his book broke into the top 30 for the category of football books sold globally. Also broke into the top 500 for all type of books sold globally in Barnes and Noble. And the name of the book is A Business and Family. So congratulations on that. And he is also the CEO of the Ogden Leadership Academy, which helps people with like communication skills, networking, and growing a database and so on and so forth. And he also is the co-founder of the Lev and Marcus podcast, which focuses on business, entrepreneurship, and sports. And just recently, he had the one and only Joe Namath on his podcast. He just released it on his timeline, so you're going to want to check that out. So, hey, man, thank you for joining. I appreciate it.
Kurt, it's great to be here. Nice to meet you again, sir. Well, again in person, or I guess virtually, face to face. And nice to see you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. So okay. So let's. I'm not. I'm. What I'm really interested in is more so, like how some of the things you learned in the NFL have helped you with leadership or business in what you're doing now. Do you mind giving a few examples?
Sure. So, for example, when I was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, Coach Jack Del Rio said when I was a rookie, the biggest and most important thing you're going to do for yourself here as a rookie with the Jaguars, being my first draft class ever, you're going to learn how to be your own CEO. You're going to learn how to take control of your destiny. You're going to learn how to do things. Yes, you work for the Jaguars, but I can't tell you when to get up to be here on time. I can't tell you what to do to have the best game on that you put out. I can't tell you what to do to show up and get the strongest you can get, the most fast you can get, the most agile you can get. I can't do all that for you. So you have to take command of your own journey and your own destiny. So that was great advice. And also being around some phenomenal strength coaches in the National Football League, I was able to learn discipline and focus is absolutely necessary in life, sports, business, whatever the case may be. You have to have that discipline, Kurt, and you have to have that focus to get from where you are or your starting point to where you want to be or the targeted finish line and beyond.
Yeah, I was a chef for many years, and there are different places, different kitchens you can work. You can work in like mom and pops or some TGI Fridays, or you can work like I did in the 5 star. So the 5 star would be like for Super Bowl winning teams, and then the other ones would be like the teams that just never win, or the teams that are like what do you call it, semi-pro. So, but I've learned there are, because I've known a couple of other guys who played in the NFL, and I've learned there's some similarities between kitchens in NFL. Like there's definitely a machismo type thing going on. There's definitely discipline. I mean, actually, 5 star kitchens are run like the military. And from what I know of NFL teams, for the most part, like some of the better run teams or the better coaches are going to run their team with like a tight ship. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Kind of
Like
have to, I would
Bill
assume.
Bill Belichick runs the Patriots like a tight military ship. Again, his quote, his saying, do your job. That's it. Like, don't question the direction. Don't question the voyage. Don't question where we're sailing to. We're going to sail to our targeted destination, which is the Super Bowl. If you don't like the trajectory, the path we are on, he is like he's always said, you can get off the ship at any time. He's never been the guy to want to continue to have guys on his team, right, Kurt, that are not aligned around a shared vision.
Yes, and the best chefs I ever worked for were They were clear, concise. You knew exactly where you were going at all times. There's no wishy-washy crap. So on that note, I don't want to turn this into a football podcast, even though I could and would love it. But speaking of Bill Belichick, he's done a lot more with players who are not top players. He doesn't, like Tom Brady when he was with Belichick, he didn't have the weapons he has now. Am I right in that what Belichick does, which is what you touched on, is he just gets people to do their job. And if everybody does their job, then you don't necessarily need the star receivers is that right?
Oh, it's 100% right. If you do the job, if you execute the playbook and the play calls and the game strategy, he feels he has the best chance to win. And he's proving that right now with how they're winning with a rookie quarterback that is really not the best athlete in the draft. He was not. He was not the best pure pocket thrower in the draft, but he's having the best season of any rookie quarterback, better than Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, all these guys that were picked before him. He is having the best season. And I feel, Kurt, he'll have the best career overall because he got into the best system overall.
So is it fair to say that other teams that don't do as well, they're just not doing their jobs and the coaches aren't really disciplined enough and holding them accountable? Would that be a good?
That's a great point. That's a great way to say it. Look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love the Jaguars. They drafted me, phenomenal organization, but every year they get a top draft pick and it doesn't work out. The coaches they've hired have not done a great job, I feel, of creating a culture full of discipline and accountability. Doug Marrone, I feel, did not do that. I am pretty confident Urban Meyer will not be that guy. They haven't had a good coach like a Bill Belichick, like a John Harbaugh, like what Cliff Kingsbury's doing in Arizona. They haven't had anyone like a Bruce Arians to come in and set the culture. It's like business. Sean Payton's another one, right? These are coaches that set the culture and they expect and they demand the best out of their players. Like any great CEO will expect the best out of their staff, but they have to give them the structure and give them the overall plan or roadmap to get to the finish line.
Yeah, and I found, like, from my experience, I found a lot of times managers aren't always clear enough in their instruction, and then they get mad at the team. And then they also, what I've learned too, is a lot of times don't know how to hold people accountable. Like a real life scenario, when I opened a hotel in India, and one of my chefs, we kept having problems with one part of the kitchen. And I said, well, what are you doing about it? He said, well, I keep yelling at him. I keep telling him. I said, yeah, but you're not holding them accountable. Yeah. I keep telling them. I even yelled at him. I said, look, if the problem is still happening, you're not holding them accountable. And it didn't sink in, no matter how I reworded it. I said, look, the job's either done right or it's not. Is it done right? No. Okay, then you're not holding them accountable. And it's still kind of like deer in headlights, and it took me a while to get through to them. So, but I that sounds like what's happening in the NFL, which you alluded to. They're just, people aren't being held accountable on some of these teams, and there's no clear direction. And okay, so let's take a left turn and let's go into public speaking, which I know is something you're very active with. You've done a lot of public speaking, so congrats on that. And for people out there who want to get into public speaking and who haven't done it, what do you recommend? Like, how does one get started? Like somebody suggested to me, well, reach out to organizations, see if you can speak for free, like, maybe Rotary clubs or things like that. What did you do? I mean, I knew you were an NFL player, so that may have helped. I'm not sure, depending on what avenue you took. So what advice would you give to people if they want to get started public speaking and how to get their first gigs?
First thing you must do, what are 1 to 3 topics you want to speak on? Is it leadership? professional development, marketing and sales, culture, diversity and inclusion, whatever that is, pick 1 to 3. Then from there, look in your inner circle, look within your sphere of influence. Who works in organizations that you feel you could speak to, and again, leverage your experience and do a free job. Yes, you are going to have to do free jobs in the beginning. There's 4 critical aspects, Kurt, of any successful speaker: a website, videos of you in action, client logos, client testimonials. If you don't have a website, even though we're in this fast pace of social media, you and I met on LinkedIn, Instagram, all this stuff, people still want to see a good old-fashioned website in our business of speaking. Then you need to get videos of you in action that show 3 things: stage presence, audience engagement capabilities, audience education capabilities. Those need to be seen clearly, concisely, without hesitation through your videos. Because if you don't have those things, meeting planners won't feel confident you can actually get their people inspired. Then client logos. Who have you worked for? Who has trusted you to come and speak for them? Then client testimonials. What people say about your work. I tell people all the time, what you say about yourself builds your self-confidence. What others say about you, Kurt, it builds your book of business.
Oh, interesting. Now, I've learned one thing. There seems to be a similarity between stand-up comedy and public speaking in that it's not, sometimes the content can be a little bit lacking, but if your delivery and your timing is spot on, that can make up for it. Do you agree with that?
100%. And that goes to the audience engagement. It's kind of like, Kurt, do you come across with confidence and exude that you're really passionate and very just believe in what you say? Or do you come across very just not confident, seeming like you're lackluster, seeming that you don't really believe in what you say? So tonality, confidence, and how you project yourself to the audience is a major, major factor in being a very good keynote speaker.
Okay, cool. And so what about, let's switch over to the podcast thing now. You obviously you've done well. You've had some great guests on there. What's one of the best lessons you've learned since you started doing podcast? I guess I would assume you took some of your public speaking skills and it probably transferred nicely to podcast.
Yep, but what I've learned in this business, Kurt, 2 big things: consistency with doing the podcast and consistency with marketing the podcast. There's 3 essential factors of any business. I don't care if it's podcasting, being a chef, speaking, cars, auto, it doesn't matter. Software, doesn't matter. You got to have marketing, you got to have sales, you got to have operations. And a lot of times when people do a podcast, they don't market it. For example, Kurt, we had Joe Namath on the podcast. We had his episode released yesterday. I've had hundreds of people message me, love the podcast, great energy. Joe is awesome, great interview. And what I've been doing, taking those little snippets people have been texting me, putting on social, taking them, sending them to other people, taking them, putting on my Instagram story with the link to the podcast so they can just click the link and bam, go right to it. It's another thing I've learned in this business. The easier we make it for people to listen to the podcast, the more likely they're going to listen to the podcast. So telling them to click this link, then click another link, then click another link and get to that podcast, they're not going to do it. Click one link, bam, you're right at the pod. I mean, perfect example, Kurt, my lifting buddy. I lift at the gym 6 days a week. My lifting buddy said, hey, Marcus, heard about Joe Namath's podcast, came to check it out. I said, oh, James, don't even worry about it. Making it easy for you. We were between our sets. I texted him the sole link, Kurt, for the interview. He didn't have to go look for it, didn't have to go search for it. He texted me today, Marcus, it's so awesome that Broadway Joe swims for 25 minutes every day. I knew he listened to that all the way through because Joe said that about 5 minutes left in the interview. But without me sending him that direct link, Kurt, and he's a good friend of mine, there's no way he's going to go and try to search and find it.
Yeah, I
So
don't like doing
make
that either.
it accessible.
And so how do you market your? I mean, obviously you put it on LinkedIn. Are you doing other things like to market it to get
Sure,
out
I
there?
have to put LinkedIn. I use Instagram, all social. I put a link to the podcast in our monthly newsletter. We send out once a month. Click this below. We are actually just hiring a publicist who's going to start with us in January. She's going to help us with getting on more media, more television. I'm going to New York City next Thursday for the day to do a big media project at Cheddar Media at their headquarters in Times Square. I'm going to talk about the podcast there. It's a transition after my life. When I'm on other podcasts, I talk about our podcast, of course, in the right type of frame point, and then really just continuing to, it's like the old saying, Kurt, it takes people 7 touch points to want to either listen or buy something. If you're not marketing in the right way, you're dying.
Right. So speaking of marketing and networking, how would you like to share one of the things you've learned when it comes to growing your network on whether it be social media or wherever? What are some things? Because there's the obvious things. Be consistent, engage in other people's stuff. Blah blah blah. Um, but outside of social media, have you been able to grow your network? Maybe I guess through events is really the only thing I can think of.
Kurt, for me, it's just been being authentic and not trying to push for the sale too quickly. That's what's helped us because we plant seeds, let them grow. I mean, perfect example, Kurt. A good friend of mine I would call her an influencer on LinkedIn, reached out to me yesterday and said, Marcus, I'm stuck. I'm in a rut. I need your help. I need a coach. Kurt, I've been talking to her, engaging her, following her for probably about 1.5 years, 2 years. Never did I imagine she would be needing help based off her posting, how she's been doing. But it's things like, it's like engaging people's content. I don't just mean like it or comment, right? I mean, if they comment on your stuff, you comment back. If they comment in, you comment again. Like, keep the ball going. Engage does not mean like something and go away. It means like something, comment. If they comment, you comment back. And we've built a very authentic friendship the last 2 years. And I never once, Kurt, asked her to be my client, never asked her to hire me, never. Yesterday, out of the blue, text me, I need your help, Mars. I need a coach, and you're the guy I need. And that just blew me away. But that's the difference, Kurt, because I'm really that guy that builds those relationships, and I don't try to get the transactional sale ever, or the sale, for that matter, too quickly.
Yeah, I learned that. It took me a while to learn that lesson because I went from being a chef to running this business where I'm the one that brings in the revenue and gets new clients. And, I had to literally completely change my mindset because I'm not a chef. I mean, granted, I haven't been a chef for 9 years, but after 27 years, it's kind of ingrained. But, and I think you're almost out of time. What do you got?
Yeah, I got about 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, let's leave everybody with one last tidbit. In your journey, you've done quite a bit from author. Oh, how about writing a book? We didn't touch on that. Wow, and that's an award-winning book, and it's done fantastic. For people that want to write a book, what's maybe a few quick tips you could give them to help them?
Know your target audience you're trying to reach and know the topics you're trying to cover. And once you know that, you need to sit down, write an outline, and figure out, do you have enough meat, enough of substance to turn into a book? The answer is yes. Then you either start writing or you go find a ghostwriter. And from there, you build. But first thing you must do, what is going to be the message of the book and who's the target audience, right, Kurt, that you're going after?
Yeah, I guess in that regard, I would think like a chef, because if I'm going to do fancy 5-star food, well, then that's not going to appeal to every audience.
No, it's not because it's too expensive, all that. So know who you're selling to and know, right, Kurt, what value add they need to hear, feel, or see from you to want to buy from you.
Okay, cool. And last question: did you self-publish, or did you? How did you get your book published?
I went through a big publisher. The first one was a small publishing house that I found through LinkedIn. Then the second one was one of the top 5 publishing houses that was referred to me by my mentor, Miss Mel Robbins, who's a keynote speaker,
Oh, I know who
coach,
she. Well, I know who
author.
she is. I don't know her.
Right. Yeah, she's my mentor.
Oh, nice, nice. Okay, awesome. So, hey, look, Marcus, hey, thank you very much for your time. I enjoyed it. I'm enjoying your content, and I'm going to be listening to the Joe Namath podcast this weekend. And hey, I wish you all the best. Thank you, and I'll see you on LinkedIn.
Thanks, Kurt. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, take care, man. Bye bye.
Have a good one, Kurt.
You too. Bye bye.